Dragon Ball fans have been waiting very patiently for more Dragon Ball Sparking news, and honestly, I think we're going to get some more on the 28th of January. So you're probably asking, Zach, what the hell is on January 28th? Well, that is Dragon Ball Battle Hour. If you don't know what Battle Hour is, it's a huge panel of just Dragon Ball IP projects. Basically, you got the anime, you got Dokkan, you got Legends, got the card games, all that kind of stuff. So we actually had a couple of months ago, basically the timetable breakdown of what everything's going to have on a time scale. So you kind of know like how long an event's going to be. But we had this huge like 2-hour block of just kind of nothing, right? It was basically just called Games Producer Panel, which is still titled that, but it had nothing tied to it. It didn't really have like, is it about Sparking Zero? Is it about Xenoverse? Is it just about games in general? So nobody really knew, and everybody speculated that it was going to be Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. But today we got confirmation that it's going to be towards that. In this little timetable here, we got all kinds of different things. We got Sandland on day 1, and then we have like the card game, we have Legends, Dokkan, and then we have Dragon Ball Z. So here though, they didn't have this icon. This icon just kind of popped up. They kind of slid it in, but this is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And then they went in to talk about Rio, which is actually the guy who worked on Dragon Ball Sparking series. So he's kind of obviously been there from day 1. And then they have our producer Masayuki, which this guy, from what I understand, what I remember, he's actually been part of the Xenoverse 2 stuff for a very long time. So this guy looks like he actually got promoted to general producer of Dragon Ball games in general. But they're going to have a stage at the Battle Hour event to share some stories when working on Dragon Ball games. And then in addition, they're going to allow players and fans to ask questions to these 2 producers, and they'll be answered on stage at the day of the event. First and foremost, they added Sparking Zero, but that could have been just to add credentials for Rio. That could have just been like, hey, this is, you know, he worked on this stuff, so he's going to kind of know what's going on with Sparking Zero. So if you want to ask him some generic questions, feel free to do so. But they could also drop a, you know, dope ass trailer with a release date, and they can talk about the, you know, questions that they're going to get from that. There's 2 different ways that it can kind of go. It could be kind of a confirmation where they, you know, do a trailer with a release date, or a trailer just in general, a little bit more gameplay, maybe UI or something like that, and then they take questions on that type of stuff. Or they could just be more basic and more kind of like tame, and they could just be like, hey, got some questions, you can ask it, we don't know if we'll answer it. Like if somebody's like, hey, where's this going to be released, and they're like, we'll get back to that. But honestly, I do think it's going to be more on the side of adding something, or kind of like showing some sort of trailer. They're kind of known to start putting stuff on this, and this is like I said, a huge Dragon Ball event, so this would be the time to do it for a nice release date. Other than that, we'd have to wait till Summer's Games Fest, and I honestly think that this game's a lot closer than people realize. I think this is probably a late summer into fall type of release date, because based on kind of the information and kind of the way they're producing stuff, I do think that they're starting to kind of put it more in the limelight, which in my opinion makes it kind of more marketable, and definitely means that they're working on marketing, which in turn means that this game is probably a lot closer than people realize. Having these 2 here is just kind of a huge addition to the panel, and basically adding this logo alone can obviously mean 2 things. It could either do the credentials thing, or it could just be like, hey, we're going to be talking about Sparking Zero, and this is just kind of confirmation in a subtle way that it will be part of this big, you know, 2-hour panel. It's like 2.5 hours between this panel and this panel, so it's kind of like they got a lot of information, because if you see kind of the timetables, you know, you got 12 to 1 to 1:30, all in PST. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that I'm in CST, so for example, this one's 2 p.m. PST, so my time is 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is like the biggest block, and of course that's probably for the Q&A to allow some time for Q&A, but yeah, this is like a pretty big block. And then they have, you know, the World Championship Super Card game, and then they have Daima stuff, which again, I'm excited for this. Honestly, I know say what you will, I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about this one, but I'm personally pretty excited to see where it goes and kind of see what happens with it. I'm always kind of open to new stuff. We all wish we would have got a little bit more on Super, because we have a lot of stuff to cover on Super. But yeah, Daima maybe, you know, links in some way. But yeah, Sparking Zero looks like it's going to be making some sort of appearance. Obviously, we don't know. We'll have to kind of tune out on the 28th. But if something drops, or a trailer or something like that, for sure we'll be there. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Sparking Zero stuff, or anime stuff in general. We'll be playing the JJK stuff, as well as anything that kind of comes out in the future.